You gotta see this. There is a discussion becoming so prominent about Trump and his mental situation struggles that even Fox News has had to interface with this. So that's what we'll get to. I find it very fascinating. But first, it seems like one recent moment from this economic club of New York event that Trump appeared at has really sparked a lot of new discussions about that because of just how discombobulated, confused, and fragmented his thoughts seem. And so I want to play this for you. We did cover this already on the bonus show. You can get access to the bonus show by clicking the join button below. By the way, on yesterday's, I went through and played sort of what happens before I start a segment and after, but when the cameras are still rolling, sort of blooperish stuff. So fun stuff there. Join button below for that. Become a member. But here is the original clip. You've probably seen it before. Then we'll get to how on multiple different outlets, all sorts of people are having concerned discussions about this, and then Fox News having to have that aired as well.
If you win in November, can you commit to prioritizing legislation to make childcare affordable? And if so, what specific piece of legislation will you advance?
Well, I would do that, and we're sitting down. You know, I was somebody, we had Senator Marco Rubio, and my daughter Ivanka was so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue. But I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, that, because look, childcare is childcare. There's something, you have to have it. In this country, you have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about by taxing foreign nations at levels that they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly. And it's not going to stop them from doing business with us, but they'll have a very substantial tax when they send product into our country. Those numbers are so much bigger than any numbers that we're talking about, including childcare, that it's going to take care. We're going to have, I look forward to having no deficits within a fairly short period of time, coupled with the reductions that I told you about on waste and fraud and all of the other things that are going on in our country. Because I have to stay with childcare. I want to stay with childcare, but those numbers are small relative to the kind of economic numbers that I'm talking about, including growth, but growth also headed up by what the plan is that I just told you about. We're going to be taking in trillions of dollars, and as much as child care is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kind of numbers we'll be taking in. We're going to make this into an incredible country that can afford to take care of its people, and then we'll worry about the rest of the world. Let's help other people. But we're going to take care of our country first. This is about America first. It's about make America great again. We have to do it because right now we're a failing nation. So we'll take care of it. Thank you. Very good question.
This thing we do to show support, to affirm someone, clapping as we call it, has no meaning, is worthless if it's used on that. If you clap for that, then you've so cheapened what clapping's meant to do. It's sad. When we went over this originally, again, on the members only show, I had the urge, as now I've seen a lot of people doing, to read the transcript because your mind is thinking, you understand the individual words he's saying, but you don't understand the actual sentences that he's saying. So before seeing how Fox News discussed this, here's this again. Again, I've seen multiple people do this, but I would do that. And we're sitting down. You know, I was somebody. We had Senator Marco Rubio, and my daughter Ivanka was so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue. But I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, that because look, childcare is childcare. It's something you have to have in this country. You have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about by taxing foreign nations at levels that they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly, and it's not going to stop them from doing business with us. But they'll have a very substantial tax when they send product into our country. Those numbers are so much bigger than any numbers that we're talking about, including childcare, that is going to take care. We're going to have, I look forward to have no deficits within a fairly short period of time, coupled with the reductions that I told you about on waste and fraud and all of the other things that we're going on in our country because I have to stay with childcare. I want to stay with childcare, but those numbers are small relative to the kind of economic numbers that I'm talking about, including growth, but growth also headed up by what the plan is that I just told you about. We're going to be taking in trillions of dollars, and as much as childcare is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kind of numbers we'll be talking about. We're going to make this into an incredible country that can afford to take care of its people, and then we'll worry about the rest of the world. Let's help other people, and we're going to take care of our country first. This is about America first. It's about Make America Great Again. We have to do it because right now we're a failing nation, so we'll take care of it. What? You clap for that? It's it's further proven to be so incoherent when you read it. No. That's not how you speak this language. What he's trying to say is I have no idea what I'm going to do on childcare because probably it's going to be nothing. And so I am sort of thinking the justification for not really wanting to do anything on that is that I have better, bigger plans that will bring in bring in so much money into this country, like tariffing other countries, even though that's not what he thinks it is, that we won't even have to worry about childcare because everyone's going to be so rich they can just afford it. No. Last time you were president, you said similar promises like we're going to be bringing in so much money, I'm going to make us so rich that I'm going to be paying off the debt. And then he added more to the debt than any president in American history. And you say, oh, Luke, that's because of the pandemic. Well, in part, but even if you exclude the pandemic from both Biden and Trump added twice that of Biden. So fake, empty promises made in the most jumbled way you could possibly imagine, because what he's hoping is that he can filibuster you into forgetting what the question was and thinking, well, he said make America great again, and then not realizing that he so utterly failed to think with his mind and then make what was created in that mind come out of his mouth effectively. Here was Fox News liberal Jessica Tarlov forcing Jesse Waters, Janine Pirro, Greg Gutfeld, Dana Perino to sit and listen as she makes incredible points about that, making Fox News viewers listen to a clip or to a discussion of a clip that Fox News really doesn't like playing for their viewers.
But today was also about Donald Trump's economic speech, and we watched a lot of it. And I would dare any of you to listen to his answer on childcare and tell me what the hell he was talking about. It was one of the more incoherent things I've ever heard. He thinks tariffs are going to pay for everything. We know that they're a tax on the consumer. But this really highlights a big problem that everyone is saying, well, Trump is so transparent and Trump's out there and that's all that matters. What matters is the content of what he's saying. And none of it is explainable. This issue, which is a big priority for people, obviously a central plank of what's going on in the Harris campaign, he doesn't have an answer besides tariffs. And J.D. Vance yesterday was talking about just have grandma and grandpa do more, that's some sort of solution for people. He's going to have energy prices, drill, baby, drill, even though we're producing more oil than we ever have before, leading the world, more tax cuts for the rich, and tariffs are the only way that we're going to be paying for it.
I think tariffs are designed to punish countries who subsidize their products.
But they don't work that way. And
no, for specific countries, they do. Look, I know.
You know what?
I know tariffs.
I've dated tariffs.
I do joy. Okay, I understand joy. I understand even when you disagree with someone being lighthearted. But Greg Gutfeld and the other hosts do this a lot. Jesse Waters does it a lot too, which is respond to a brilliant, devastating point by Jessica Tarlov by making a joke. Well, I don't need childcare because I'm rich. And then everyone laughs and they move on. That's just an example of something that might be said by the likes of Jesse Waters. No, but engage with what she said. Engage with what she said, please. I beg you. Now, the other thing that drives me crazy before showing you other examples of mainstream media having to discuss what is a frightening state of Trump's brain, and this is just one example. We've been covering a bunch of them. It just happens to be one that I think is less indicative of one little, like the Saudi Arabian Russia will that moment. You could say, well, that was just one verbal mishap. This is more how his brain is working, that it's not processing the information that's entering it and exiting it in the ways that a human brain should. But the thing that really makes me mad too is think about the hypocrisy. Right now, MAGA has been doing this thing where they clip any moment where Kamala Harris speaks slightly vaguely. She'll say, the significance of our strength is in the strength of our diplomacy. And they'll go, but then that vague, messed up, confusing blob of a sentence, of a run-on sentence, a really, really, really long run-on sentence, is not troubling to them. Kamala Harris is unburdened by what has been thing, is too vague and detached from specifics for them, but not that. And then last thing on this, then we'll go through more. The tariffs thing. It's not that you don't, just so everyone's clear, it's not that we can't use tariffs for things. We can. Sometimes that is the necessary path forward. Trump's conversations about tariffs, though, and his 10% across the board and everything idea, but his discussions of it explicitly assert that the Chinese government, for example, is paying us directly whenever he implements these tariffs. He is not thoughtfully engaging, because how could he? You got to have a thought to thoughtfully engage with something. But he's not thoughtfully engaging with what the ups and downs are of tariffs based on how they actually work, which is consumers ultimately paying due to companies having to pay. The majority of people who watch the show on a regular basis aren't actually subscribed to the channel. If you can make sure you are by clicking that subscribe button, easy, free, simple, but makes all the difference. I greatly appreciate it to help us get the word out. Back to the video. But here is just one bonus moment from the 5, and then I'll show you CNN's reaction, MSNBC.
Russia, go ahead.
Okay, real fast as it relates to Russia. The Russians weren't messing up the election. It was the Americans. It was the Biden-Harris administration. It was bringing in these so-called intelligence agents. It was having the White House and the FBI call and say, suppress any discussion of Hunter Biden.
They were talking about the 2020 election. Who was president in 2020? Friend of the show, Josiah from Pondering Politics, and I have ranted about this many times before. The ability for some of these folks to take time and bend it and stretch it and mold it, sometimes abuse it for their own purposes is stunning. The real election interference in 2020 was not Trump, it was the Biden-Harris administration. Before the Biden-Harris administration existed? What? That's some really philosophical stuff there. So here was CNN's initial reaction to Trump's speech.
This was slated to be an unveiling of what he would do as president. So far, he has spent a lot of time, really all of his time, talking about what he believes Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have done wrong. When he starts talking about his own plans, we will get back to it as soon as we can. In the meantime, I want to go to Matt Egan because what we've heard so far requires a lot of fact-checking.
So then Chris Hayes did a really good segment talking about the quote-unquote signs of slipping. But first on CNN there, people have been talking about, and Aaron Rupar, friend of the show, has been pointing this out very correctly, the sane washing that's done. And I don't know, it's easy to say that. I try my best not to sane wash Trump, obviously. And I know someone like Dana Bash isn't purposefully trying necessarily. But it is weird to see what we just saw, or any number of crazy Trump rally moments, and then it cuts to a very professional reporter saying, and that was Donald Trump speaking at an economic event, and he was purportedly going to talk about his own plans for the economy. If he gets back to that, we'll jump back to the feed as quickly as possible. But instead, he focused on his disagreements with the framework by which, and it's not really at all giving you the representation of what we just watched that you should be getting, even though I know it's hard. And when you're trying to be professional and nonpartisan, it often will come off sane-washy for sure. But here's Chris Hayes not doing that.
And if you actually ask him to articulate just a basic policy proposal, say on childcare, for instance, he just cannot do it.
If you win in November, can you commit to prioritizing legislation to make childcare affordable?
Oh, we do not need to watch that again. There's no way. There's no way. So let me refresh this and see if I can get to when Chris Hayes jumps back in my ears. I think my brain would melt a little. Here it is.
Thank you.
The applaud at the end. After he's like falling all over, he does the Simone Biles dismount. MAGA. You get all that? Remember, the question was, what specific piece of legislation will you advance to keep childcare costs down? Okay? Now, again, here's a contrast. Here's the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. She's the Democratic nominee. Here she is with her specific plan to help offset the cost of childcare.
Under my plan, more than 100 million Americans will get a tax cut, and we will do this by restoring 2 tax cuts designed to help middle-class and working Americans. The Earned Income Tax Credit and the Child Tax Credit. Through which millions of Americans with children got to keep more of their hard-earned income. So as president, I'll not only restore that tax cut, but expand it. We will provide $6,000 in tax relief to families during the first year of a child's life.
So there you have it.
I'm really happy he compared it. I didn't think to do that myself. Comparing it to Vice President Kamala Harris's plan is crazy. The interesting thing is, I don't actually want this because I think it would be absolutely terrifying. But sometimes I want to go sort of Ant-Man my way into Trump's brain and be able to float around. Is Ant-Man the right? I don't actually want to see like his brain, like the actual brain. But the you know what I'm saying. I feel like he's swimming around in these thoughts, and now whatever it is, I think the best thing you can say is some sort of cognitive decline. As he's swimming around in thoughts, a previous Trump could actually pick out some of them, but instead he can just grab keywords. And so he threw out Ivanka. What he means is Ivanka did advocate on behalf of an increased child tax credit. And in his tax cut bill, we talked about the specifics of this before in the Ivanka segment, but there were increases to the child tax credit. One of the parts that you would say wasn't as horrible as the other parts. The way that it was done was also wonky, but better than most of the bill, right? He could have cited that, and he tried throughout Ivanka, throughout Marco Rubio, failed. Wait, I don't remember what the specific thing is. That's what his brain did. Dang it, move on. Tariffs. And what he really feels is shut up about childcare, okay? I don't care. I don't care about you. I don't have to worry about childcare because I'm rich. Tuh. That's how he actually feels. And he's annoyed that he would be asked such a question. But him trying to grab onto certain talking points that are there, he could have cited the specific increases in 2017. But he can't find it in his brain. And now MSNBC talking about it. Even Jessica Tarlov bringing it up on Fox News. Hopefully more discussion will be done about it, especially given that the big attack from Republicans against Biden was cognitive related and was age related. Well, hold your guy to a tough standard as well. Let me know what you thought of that in the comments. And I've plugged the bonus show too many times in this segment, haven't I? I normally here would say click the join button below if you want to be a member. I don't want to go through that. Again, I don't want to go through and say that's the way that you make the show possible. If you click the join button, you get extra content. You become my best friend. Not my best friend. That's weird. I wouldn't want to go through that all again. So I won't. And you can donate to Kamala Harris' campaign by clicking the link in the description of this video.